Hey students, we are starting Unit 8. Unit 8 is trigonometry. Do not stress over trigonometry. It is not difficult at all. I fully believe if you practice the work, you will get it'll be very easy for you. You do have to have a calculator to do trig, and you guys have to make sure your calculator has the sine, cosine, and tangent keys on it. You don't need that for today's notes, but for tomorrow, the next set of notes, you do. So you do need your calculator. You need 3 highlighters for today, and you need your notes. There is no vocab to go with this unit. This is a quick unit. So there are only 4 days of notes. And so we're going to fly right through this, and then we're probably going to jump right into a test for it. So don't slack off. Stay with it because you want to be ready for your test. Okay, so go ahead and put your name on your paper so that when I take up your notes, you already have your name on it. And surprise, this is a review worksheet, that set of notes, until we get over here. This would be the new part. So we're going to fly right through this. Go ahead and pause the video and write this down. Okay, so I'm moving on. If you didn't get time to write that down, you need to do it. But I don't need to show you a lot of Pythagorean theorem until we get to the bigger problems that you haven't seen before. So question number 1, let's do that one. I'll do it for you. You guys know that the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And the a and b are the legs, if you have not figured that out yet. I'm worried. And the c is the hypotenuse. So for this problem, we're going to say 8 squared plus 13 squared equals c squared. You can also put x squared if you want to. Just ignore my a. And then remember, we do all of this in our calculator. I can say 8. You can go ahead and show all the steps if you want to, but if you know how to do the steps together, your calculator will do the work for you. And so we get c squared equals 233. And then most importantly, don't forget we are trying to find c. And so we do need to take the square root. And so second square root. And we're going to do 1 decimal place again, so that would be 15.3. Okay, go ahead and cross these 2 off so I know that you watched the video and I told you not to do those. And let's go ahead. I'm going to let you practice with number 4. I have faith that you know how to do this, and I even threw in some decimals to see if you know how to do it. So go ahead and do number 4, and then one of the first question will be, what is your answer? All right, let's see what you got. I got 23.8. It was 23.7789. That rounds to 23.8. And I want to let you know that it doesn't matter what numbers they give you. This one was a subtraction problem. I went ahead and showed you all the steps. But basically, 30.5 squared minus 19.1 squared gives us 565. And then we take the square root, and we get that decimal. Now, I want you guys to use a little bit of common sense. Which one of these has to be the longest? So if your answer was over 30.5, that should have been a clue that you did something wrong. Okay, it is not the longest side. The longest side is the hypotenuse. Okay, so now let's go into some application problems where we have things where you have to figure out how you can use the Pythagorean theorem. All right, so what we're looking for are right triangles. All right, something you need to know, this is what kind of triangle? Okay, this is an isosceles triangle. In an isosceles triangle, when you drop, this is actually called an altitude. You don't need to know that right now. This is called an altitude. When you have these 2 pieces equal, it's making 2 congruent triangles. So what happens is these 2 pieces are equal. And so I put double marks. I didn't mean to do that, but that's an 11 and 11, okay? These 2 segments are congruent. The 22 is cut in half. So you can see the right triangle. We're using a squared and b squared equals c squared, a squared, b squared, c squared, okay? Go ahead and do it, please. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. X will be your answer. Okay, did you get it right? So this is a subtraction problem. C squared, a squared, b squared, and I subtracted 11 squared from 24 squared. took the square root, and I get 21.3. Again, it should be less than 24. Okay, number 6. Now, when you have a figure like this, you have to find a right triangle. You have to find a right triangle by figuring out how you can, it's called partitioning off the shape, making different shapes, and our ultimate goal is to find x. Well, for this problem, this is what we're going to do. If I were to draw this piece right here, okay, that piece right there is also x, which is what we're trying to find. So I've got the 16, I've got one of the legs. I need to know this little piece right here. Well, if this piece is 5, then what would go here? It would have to be 13. How did I get that? 13 plus 5 is 18. All right, so then this is where a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Go ahead and do it for me. Another question I'm going to ask you. Go ahead and do it. All right, there's the answer. Hopefully you got that right. So what I want to show you is you know how to do the Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem is actually not a standard for geometry. It's something you should learn going into geometry, but we are going to be using it for problems. Okay, look at number 7. So question number 7 is saying, what is x? This is just a combination problem. We have had combination problems on almost every worksheet that we've ever done. So it's asking you to do 2 problems. Okay, so for the left side, to get the orange, just to make this easier for you, I'm going to put orange over here, and I'm going to put pink over here so you know what goes with what. Okay, so for the orange, this is your A, this is your B, or B and A, doesn't matter. This is your C. So it's going to be A squared plus 12 squared equals 14 squared. And then for the pink, it's going to be 12 squared plus B squared equals 29 squared. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that for you. So 14 squared, 14 squared minus 12 squared, doing that little shortcut. A squared is 52. And then I'm going to square root that. I get 7.2. So that means the orange piece is 7.2. And for the pink, 29 squared minus 12 squared. And then we're going to square root that. 26.4. Okay, so I subtracted this. Took the square root, didn't show you that step, 26.4. And then to get our final answer, we would add those together, 7.2 plus 26.4, 33.6 would be the answer. Okay, there's nothing in that problem that's too difficult for you to be able to get. Okay, turn the page. All right, more combination problems. So number 8, we've got 2 triangles. We've got the pink and we've got the orange. So what we have to do, notice the pink and the orange are sharing a side. We have to do one set of work to get the answer here to be able to do the other set of work. So you have to ask yourself, which one can I start with? Well, I can definitely start with this one because I have 2 pieces of information. So I'm going to do the orange work first, and then that answer is going to help me finish with the pink. Okay, so let's go ahead and this is your, now be careful, guys, here's your right angle. This is your A and B. So I'm going to put a B right here. Okay, that's what I'm trying to find. So it's going to be 10 squared plus B squared equals 25 squared. I'm going to skip the work, assuming we know how to do this by now. We get 22.9. So that means B is 22 So then I'm going to use the 22.9 in my next triangle. This is your B, this is your A. It doesn't matter which one's which. A and B, this is your C. So it's going to be A squared plus 22.9 squared equals 28 squared. Okay? And then we would square these, subtract, do it all on your calculator, and we would get A, which is this answer where my pinky is, equals 16.1. That would be your final answer. You are expected to be able to do problems like that. It is just the Pythagorean theorem twice. Okay, number 9. Is a trapezoid, and we've got some things going on. Do you guys realize a trapezoid is just a rectangle and 2 triangles? All right, so when we drop these down, when you drop it perpendicular, it does make a right angle here, making your triangles, and this is what kind of trapezoid? It's an isosceles trapezoid, so everything that's happening over here is also happening over here. This length right here is actually the same from here to here. So you can see how we're putting all that together. So what happens is we're going to have to pick one of the triangles. I'm going to pick this one since it's where the X is. Okay, and this is going to be 20. We need this little piece right here to help us. So this is how we're going to get it. Well, from here to here is 26. So what is 40 minus 26? If you do 40 minus 26, leaves us 14. Well, we're going to take that 14 and split it in half. Half of it here, half of it here. So that means this little piece has to be 7. That should be very, very easy for you to figure out. So now we're going to do the Pythagorean theorem with this one. Would you please go ahead and find X for me, and that'll be the next question that you answer. Okay, so here's what I did. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Here's my work. It is a subtraction problem. Take the square root of 351, and you get 18.7. Okay, let's look at some applications. These are the same things. We're just drawing some pictures. I'm going to go through this very quickly. Guys, remember you need a right triangle. I want to see right triangles on your paper. If you do this without drawing a right triangle, it is possible to do this without drawing a picture, but it helps us because geometry is visual. So number 10, a roofer leaned a 16-foot ladder. Now what is leaning? The ladder. So the ladder is leaning, and it is 16 feet long, and it's leaning against the house. So here's my house. There's my right triangle. Put that right angle in there. If the base, guys, base is at the bottom. If the base of the ladder is 5 feet from the house, how high up the house does the ladder reach? The ACT loves to put questions like this on their test. Of course, they put a lot more with it. But this is the math that you would be doing. Okay, so we're not going to work this out, but you would set this up similar to this. And then I'm not going to worry about working it out because I know you guys know how to work it out. So we're going to move a little quicker through these. Okay, number 11. Kurt is building a rectangular deck. What should you draw? A rectangle. Okay, rectangular deck. If the dimensions of the deck are 10 feet by 23 feet, that means this is 10, this is 10, this is 23, and this is 23. Okay, what is the length of the diagonal? Remember, in a rectangle, the diagonals are equal. Doesn't matter which one you draw. So let's go ahead and just put this one in. Okay, and so this is X. This is what we're trying to find. Right triangle. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So we would go 10 squared plus 23 squared equals C squared to work that out. Again, I'm not going to work it out. I'm just going to see if you can set it up. Okay, number 12. Do you know your directions? North, south, east, west. Never eat sour watermelon. Okay, well, here it is. Never eat sour watermelon. California is to the west. North Carolina is to the east. New York is north. Florida is south. Okay, honestly, if you don't know this, as long as you draw a right triangle, you're probably going to get it right. Okay, so Ashley jogged 3.4 miles east. So she's starting here, and she jogged 3.4 miles, and then 5.7 miles south. How far is Ashley from her starting point? That's what we're looking for. Go ahead and tell me how you would set that up. Okay, write how you would set this up, and then we'll answer the question. Okay, so you should have that. All right, number 13, a 31-foot support wire. So wires, you guys, when you have telephone poles and you have the wires that are attached, those are like a tree and the wire is helping hold it up. That's what's slanted. So 31-foot support wire is attached to the top of a 25-foot telephone pole. How far from the base? Base is on the bottom. How far from the base of the pole does the wire meet the ground? So this is your X. Okay, so tell me how you would set that one up. All right, this is how you would set it up. Not going to worry about working it out on your worksheet. You will work those out completely. Okay, drawing a picture should help. All right, next part. I want you to pause your video and write this down. Okay, so this is something you may have not seen before. Most likely you haven't. This is using what we call the Pythagorean theorem converse. What do you notice about all these? Okay, well, normally when we write the Pythagorean theorem, we say a squared plus b squared equals c squared. These are all starting with the c squared. So the definition of converse is the reverse of a postulate or theorem. So the Pythagorean theorem says if you have a right triangle and then a squared plus b squared is going to equal c squared. Okay, so then if we switch that around and do it backwards, it's going to say we're switching everything around. If c squared equals a squared plus b squared, then the triangle is right. Okay, and then these are throwing in inequalities. What happens here is I drew a little right triangle right here. If a squared plus b squared ends up being bigger than this piece right here, what happens is that triangle opens up and that angle turns obtuse. So if these two pieces end up being the squares, end up being bigger than this squared, it's an obtuse triangle. If these two pieces added together squared end up being smaller, what it does is it closes that triangle in because it's smaller than c squared. That's just how the math works. Okay, so what's really important about this is that you remain organized with your work and that you remember for the converse, you have to have the c squared first, or you will always miss these two answers. You'll get this one right, no pun intended, but you will miss these every single time. Okay, at the top of your paper, let's write this down. A squared All right, that's the Pythagorean theorem. What we are doing on this worksheet is we are doing the converse, okay, which means we need to switch it around. Okay, and then we're actually going to test to see if it's equal, greater than, or less than to get our answer right here. Okay, a little bit for you to write down. Pause your video, write this down, highlight this line. Okay, so this section right here says, determine if these three sides can actually form a triangle. Do you know that I could give you some made up sides and they actually can't form a triangle? If I gave you a segment or segments that have one inch and 1 inch and 12 inches, that would not be able to be pieced together to make a triangle. There's only certain numbers that you can put together to form a triangle. So the first thing we have to do is we have to ask ourselves, is this a triangle? First, determine if the three sides could form a triangle. If it's yes, then we're going to figure out, is that triangle acute, right, or obtuse? If it's no, you're done with the problem. Okay, so organize your work the way I show you how to do it. We're going to put a check mark to show that we have checked to see that this is a triangle. Okay, all right, so the first one, this is how you check. We're going to go through all of these and actually check to see if it's a triangle. It's a quick check. So the numbers are usually in order. So what we're doing is we're looking for the two smallest, and we're going to add those together. And what does it say over here? Has to be greater than the third side. Okay, and the third side, if you want to put right here, our third side needs to be the biggest. Okay, this is how I have always organized my work. I put a little bracket under that and I write what that adds to. Okay, so that adds to 10. Is 10 bigger than 9? So we are looking at these two numbers right here. If this number is bigger than that number, then this is yes. This will not be one of our choices. Okay, let's look at this one. We're going to go through this quick. All right, that's going to be 41. Is 41 bigger than 29? Yes. So if this is not one of my answers, we're actually going to work this out. Okay. So that is 15. Is 15 bigger than 16? No. So this would be your answer. Okay. These are not the answers. And you are done. Okay. There's nothing else for you to do on this problem because 15 is not bigger than 16. Okay. 17 and 17. That's a yes. See how quick this is going to be? So we're going to go back and do the work in just a second. We're going to do this work right here. All right. So would you figure out yes or no, just like I did these four right here, is it going to be a triangle? And I'm going to ask you a question about it. Okay. Did you have a question about this one? So wondering if it's not a triangle or if it is. So remember the rule says this number has to be greater than this number. Is 23 bigger than 23? Nope. Okay, so these three are yeses, that's a no. Okay, let me show you how to organize your work for this. So what we're going to do is we are always going to write our problem like this. Okay, now when you have your numbers set up, it goes in this order. So you can write it over here. If it was not in that order, C has to be the biggest number. Okay, so this is going to be 9 squared, and then it doesn't matter which one is your A squared and which one is your B squared. Okay, and what we're doing is we're going to work out the left, work out the right, and we're going to see what we get. For example, this is 81. And if you put this in your calculator, this gives you 58. Well, is 81 equal to 58? No. Is 81 bigger than 58? Remember you put the greater than or less than, it points to the smaller one. The Pac-Man mouth eats the bigger one. So this 81 is greater than 58. Greater than gives us the obtuse answer. Okay, so that would be an obtuse triangle. You need to organize your work like this. You don't have to show the first step, so you can actually do this in 2 steps. But show your work if, this is one of those things for your test, if I don't see these two numbers right here, you don't get credit for this. Okay, you have to show me those two numbers. All right, number 2, let me do another one. I like putting the box to remind me I'm not putting anything in there yet. Sorry. For one more problem, I'm going to write out the C squared, A squared, and B squared. Okay, I won't do it after this one. So C squared is 29 squared. And then A and B. Okay, so 29 squared is 841. And then if we add these together, do it all in your calculator. This is what it should look like in your calculator. 20 squared plus 21 squared. Put it all in your calculator. 841. That is equal, which means my answer is a right triangle. Okay? All right, so number 4, just so you can skip the steps, we're just going to say 22 squared. Biggest number goes first, 17 squared, and 17 squared. All right, I want you to tell me which answer it is. Go ahead and finish the problem. Tell me what answer it is. Okay, you should have got less than. 484 is less than 578, making this an acute triangle. Okay, so you are going to finish this worksheet, and I'm going to ask you one more question about one of these problems, or it might be all 3 of them. Wait, find out. Finish these 3 problems, and then we'll be done with the notes. All right, here's the answers that I got. So number 5, 30 squared, 18 and 24 squared, and that ends up being right. We didn't have to do number 6. Number 7, 39 squared, and then 31 and 35 squared. That one ends up being acute. 1521 is less than. Do you see that if you didn't write it backwards, you would put this as your answer? Converse is very, very, very important that you put. You guys need to get used to seeing it like this. C squared first. Okay, and then number 8, the 28 squared. And someone asked me, they ask me every semester, can I just put 30 squared? No, the math doesn't work out like that. So do not put 30 squared. If you put 30 squared, you're not going to get 482. It does not work out like that. Order of operations. So 11 squared, 19 squared, and then this is a greater than. Okay? All right, we are done with the notes. Before we leave, just want to make sure you understand, if you did this without checking first, you would still possibly think you were getting one of these correct, but it's not a triangle. So make sure you're paying attention that you have to check to see if it's a triangle first by reading the directions to remind you that you need to do that. Okay? All right, you are all done. Could you please go into the video on Google Classroom and mark this as done so that you can get it off your to-do list? Thanks, students.